name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Keyboardist Magazine, and we can be found on the web at www.keyboardist.com. And today we're speaking with keyboardist guitarist Eddie Larkin, who most people know from the Los Angeles-based Whitesnake tribute band Whitesnaked. He's got a few other projects we're going to be talking about as well today. But the main topic of our conversation today is a lot of musicians these days have been making like a top 10 or top 20 list of their most influential albums on their Facebook pages. And Eddie and I were talking. He mentioned to me the album he would really like to talk about today for our On the Record segment is In Through the Outdoor by Led Zeppelin, obviously. So to just get right to it, Eddie, why don't we start the interview off you telling us why this, talk a little bit about how this album influenced you, why it means so much to you.
Well, I started off in a band called Spectrum back in the 70s out of Tustin, and it became a tribute to Led Zeppelin.
Oh, wow.
Right about the time that Physical Graffiti came out. I'm sorry, not Physical Graffiti, but the one after it, Presence.
Okay.
So we were playing all Led Zeppelin and going and playing shows, and they were packing. We were doing it for fun.
Yeah.
But then a couple of years later, after I was in a band called Elite, which was a band looking for a record deal, did originals and covers, I ended up leaving Elite and said, I'll form another Zepp tribute. Why not?
Yeah.
And the singer had been in an accident, so he wasn't available, but the guitar player was. So we went off and formed a band and invited a guy named Michael White to come sing with us, and that became The White.
Oh, cool.
Yes,
yeah.
and The White, I actually was supposed to play with them last weekend in Toronto.
Oh, wow.
Michael and I are still good friends.
Yeah.
The guitar players died a few years ago, but it's just been, Zeppelin has been something I've played forever. I'm in a Zeppelin tribute right now called Stairway to Zeppelin.
Yeah, is that the one with Keith St. John?
No.
Okay.
Same name.
Yeah.
God knows. There's
Yeah.
Back when I there were 3. Now there's 300.
Yeah.
In the U.S.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? that's amazing.
I didn't name it. Don't care. It's we do 12, 15 shows a year. All the guys are really good, or I wouldn't do it.
And I got to say, Eddie, it's interesting to learn that far back you were kind of doing the tribute thing as well, because there, like you said, there's countless tribute bands these days. It's really big business, but back then it wasn't, and I guess you were in one of the first real tributes, so that's kind of a cool thing.
Well, you would think so, but the thing that I've noticed is back then they had Frank Sinatra tributes, they had Elvis tributes. Yeah. So really there were tributes, they just hadn't taken on the rock and roll band thing, although they did rather quickly. We had the White doing a tribute to Led Zeppelin, you had the Rolling Clones.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and you had, all of a sudden you had 4 or 5 others. There were some Doors tributes, Strange Days I believe was the one that was out back then. They just started up and they were just starting to do tributes. We were all playing like Magic Mountain. We'd play all week up there for good money. 5,000 people a show with the Zeppelin one.
Wow.
The other ones maybe not so much, but it was a lot of fun starting out in the White. I remember one week we played for 20,000 people just because we went and played Six Flags over Texas, came back and played Magic Mountain for half a week.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. And just to drop names for a minute in regards to great Led Zepp tributes. I interviewed Swan Montgomery, the singer from Led Zeppelin. They're like the premier Zeppelin tribute out here, and he was sharing with me a story about when they did that reunion back in I think 2002 with Jason Bonham. That Led Zeppelin actually they were invited guests by Led Zeppelin. They flew them to the gig. They hung out with them backstage because I guess Jimmy Page is a big fan of what they do.
They were supportive in the beginning with the White too. The White came about 5 years before Led Zeppelin again, and the White's still together. I mean, I toured with them from 2007 to 2010. I played bass and keyboards in the Zeppelin tribute.
Oh, okay.
And then I was doing for 2007, 2010 up in Canada. We were touring across the country doing it with an orchestra.
Wow.
We would have an orchestra play with us. In fact, in Vancouver, some of the orchestra members had played with Page and Plant when they did their No Quarter tour.
Oh, wow.
Because they were in the union. It was funny, the things that come about because of all of it.
Yeah.
That's why I was going up there this weekend to do a show. I was just going to go back east and check on. I own a bar back east, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I was going to go check on that, and I'm remodeling that. And then I was going to go check and go up and do a show with Michael. He invited me to play bass for a show he had. But coronavirus aside, that didn't happen. It'll happen a few months from now.
Oh, wow.
But I start off in Zeppelin tributes.
And now let me ask you, because I know you, like you said, you're a multi-instrument guy. A lot of the gigs you do as a bass player, guitar player, keys. But what instrument did you start out on?
I started on the guitar at 11 years old. I wasn't any good. I really wasn't. I started on bass at 15. I could play it the next day.
Wow, yeah.
And bass became my main instrument at 15. And really, now I'm back to playing bass more often, but for a good 10, 12 years, I didn't play any bass.
Wow.
I played guitar and keyboards. I got in a cover band called Last Call in the Inland Empire, and that band just took off like crazy. We were putting 500-600 people into clubs.
Wow.
Playing stuff from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. And as far as preference, like has it just been a matter of most of the gigs you've got, they needed a bass player, or like if you had your preference, you think you're a better guitar player, a better bass player? What do you think on that?
No, I'm probably in the top 5% on bass players. I can play it as well as almost anybody. I mean, Geddy Lee, John Paul Jones, no, they've got it on me. They're better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, as far as Zeppelin, being a Zeppelin fan and that, like I said, for a lot of the gigs you've done, you've been a bass player. So how big of a influence would you say?
Playing keys and bass pedals as well.
Yeah, like John Paul. Yeah, like John Paul Jones.
There's a lot of demand for a guitar player, keyboard player, and that's why I do the Whitesnake. I'm doing a Bon Jovi one right now, too. Just started doing that when I'm playing keyboards. I like it all. I like the different instruments and what they mean differently. And being a bass player, you get to know the different instruments.
Yeah.
As opposed to a guitar player, sometimes you just don't delve into the other ones.
Yeah. That's so cool. Now, so getting into In Through Outdoor, why is this album you want to talk about? I mean, there's so many great Zeppelin albums, and I'll tell you, in doing research for this, because I'm not a diehard Zepp fan, I got a huge appreciation for what they do. I know a lot of the more bigger hits and stuff, but what I enjoyed kind of researching this was I heard some of the tunes. I wasn't familiar with a great number of them, but it was almost kind of like discovering a new a new album I've never really kind of had in my collection. It's kind of like discovering it for the first time. Very cool,
I discovered Zeppelin late myself because I was really into Alice Cooper, David Bowie, T-Rex, all that stuff, Genesis, all that stuff as a teenager.
Yeah.
And I saw all those bands. I saw Genesis twice with Peter Gabriel singing. I mean, that's how long I've been into them. I saw Queen before Bohemian Rhapsody was a hit.
Yeah.
So for me, I started off learning all the other stuff. I really didn't start getting into Zeppelin until I was about 18.
Yeah.
Just as a bass player, I mean, I was already into Rush from 2112. How can you ignore John Paul Jones and how he plays?
Yeah. And as far as the British bands, I think I leaned a little more towards like Deep Purple. But like I said, how can you not have an appreciation for like what Zeppelin did? And it's kind of interesting. Like I'd have to say on this album, my favorite would probably be like In the Rain. But it's like a lot of people forget that when Zeppelin started out, a lot of that early stuff was based on blues. When people think of Led Zeppelin, though, they tend to think of Whole Lot of Love or Rock and Roll or some of the heavier stuff.
True, and a lot of it was borrowed heavily from the blues masters from before. I've heard the 1929 version of When the Levee Breaks. The people always presented us with that stuff. I am not a guy who likes the real old blues. I mean, I don't appreciate it like some people do. I know that's where it came from.
Yeah.
I'd rather hear what Zeppelin did to it and take it from there and move forward.
Yeah.
I'm not somebody that I don't really care for straight up blues like it was in the 50s, 40s, and 30s. It just doesn't work for me. It's too boring to me.
Yeah, because even when Zeppelin kind of dabbled in the blues, it always had a little bit of an edge to it. Even if it had a blues tinge to what they were doing. Like
one of the reasons I chose the album I did was because most of my Led Zeppelin tribute band guitar players, and I've played with now 20 different guys and different tributes.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't like this album. The guitar players don't care for it.
Yeah, and I guess that's just because they can't really solo on a lot of these songs that are on this album.
Well, it's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
He used the All My Love. Page uses a Telecaster with a B string bender where he pulls on the strap and it bends the B string. And you get a sound that you can imitate it and it comes pretty close, but it's not the same.
Yeah, and you know, All My Love, that's an interesting tune because while many people probably refer to it like as a ballad, which is definitely a softer tune, but it's actually got a little bit of an edge to it. And interestingly enough, I learned that song was written about the death of Robert Plant's son.
Yes, that's what they say. Plant, basically wrote about that and the like. I'm the person that hears the lyrics last because I play all these instruments.
Yeah.
I'm always listening to a song, and I'm always listening to how the guitar works with the other guitar part, with the keyboard, and intertwines with the bass and the drums. Sometimes I still don't know all the Led Zeppelin lyrics.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that, Eddie, because I was on YouTube listening to some of the songs off this album, last night and today, getting ready for today's interview, and somebody wrote on the comment section on this YouTube page, I don't really. I can't even understand what Plant is singing, but it doesn't matter because it's a good song.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's a flower child. A lot of his lyrics didn't matter, but a lot of them are great. I love the Rain song, from earlier albums. Of course, Stairway, is excellent lyrics. Yeah. But I was always the one that liked the other tunes anyway. I really liked the third album. Yeah. I like Presence. I love Houses of the Holy. I like all the albums differently.
Yeah.
But none of them are alike. The first two kind of go together, but once you got to that third album, that's their worst selling album, I believe, or second worst selling album, number 3. But it has all kinds of stuff on it I love. There's one song I can't stand. That's hats off to Roy Harper. I don't care if I ever hear that again.
Yeah. Like my favorite stuff off that is obviously I like That's Away, Gallows Pole. Tangerine, I think that's kind of an unappreciated song, but it's got some character to it.
Many times.
Yeah. And getting back to this album, I'm doing research again for this. I was reading up on the Wikipedia that the title "In Through Outdoor" kind of had to do with a lot of the things the band was struggling in at the time, mainly the death of Plant's son, and then also I guess they had suffered some kind of tax exile where they didn't pay tax, so they weren't allowed to
Well, no, they would have to pay 90% tax if they didn't exile for 2 years out of the country. So yes, they were out of the country. Yeah,
because I understood they weren't able to tour in England or the UK for 2 years, which is kind of interesting, being that they're from there.
Yeah. And but a lot of bands did that. Stones. I've read a lot of biographies on these guys, and a lot of those bands did the same thing.
And now, obviously, being a bass player, like you were saying, and a keyboard player, John Paul Jones was kind of obviously a huge influence on you. But a lot of times, people think of Plant and Page immediately because they're kind of the two core guys. But do you feel that kind of John Paul Jones was the band's secret weapon? He didn't necessarily get his dues, but he was kind of the band's secret.
He got his dues, and they were all equal as far as putting the music together on the other albums. I mean, the stuff he played on keyboards wasn't like a normal keyboard player.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, generally, I dislike keyboard players.
Yeah.
I don't like having them in my band. I've always felt this way. That's why I learned to play left-hand bass and bass pedals, because they tend to want to play piano on tush. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Now, I got to ask you, you just saying that kind of funny being that you're a keyboard player as well, but I've often heard that people say keyboards don't belong in rock music, but I disagree, and especially with certain bands. I mean, perfect example, and I think you'll agree here. Deep Purple. I mean, I just listen to what John Lord did, and then you tell me that keyboards don't belong in a band like that. Yeah.
He took it to another level because a lot of people don't realize this. John Lord played through Marshall amps instead of playing through keyboard amps and distorted his sound. I'm a big John Lord guy. In fact, for the Whitesnake band, remember, Deep Purple became Whitesnake.
Yeah, basically,
The only difference was the guitar player. The first albums, it was John Lord, Ian Pace, David Coverdale, and the bass player they used was Roger Glover in the original Whitesnake.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't.
Purple.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about that because of my age. Like when Burn and all those Coverdale albums initially came out, because of my age, I didn't realize that till years later, like when that 1987 Whitesnake album, I didn't realize that that's the same singer that was in Deep Purple. And actually, it's kind of, so I was aware of Deep Purple obviously first, but it was kind of funny to become a Whitesnake fan and realize, oh yeah, he was in Deep Purple too. Yeah, and going back to like Burn and those Deep Purple albums that Coverdale did, what I loved about that era of the band was Coverdale and Hughes. They just had the vocal combination that just really worked at the time.
Well, Glenn Hughes thought he was going to be the lead singer. He didn't know until Coverdale showed up, and he realized there was somebody else. He thought he was going to be the lead singer in Deep Purple.
Yeah, but that's why back in the day, when John Lord was still around with Deep Purple, it was one thing to put on a Deep Purple album, but you go see the band live, and just ultimate experience. I mean, they'd have a 30-minute jam session on one song,
Yep.
And just
they were a jam band. They learned their songs and put them on albums by jamming them. They weren't a band, which Led Zeppelin was too. I've been privy to a lot of rehearsal tapes and the like. And Page would take a take in the studio and cut the tape up, and make his own arrangement out of it, and that's what ended up on the album.
Oh wow!
A lot of times, not always, but you hear the different stuff they did back then. I heard "Stairway to Heaven" with Plant humming because he had no lyrics yet.
And in regards to "Stairway to Heaven," it's amazing that somebody would actually have the balls to try to sue Led Zeppelin and say that's our song. But luckily, the court found in favor of Zeppelin recently.
Hey, he did play those three chords, but I'll tell you another one. It's more "Stairway to Heaven" if they ever want to sue, and that's "Taste of Honey." People wrote that.
Wow.
It is absolutely the same chords as "Stairway to Heaven" verse, the first part of the verse, but never mind on that. It doesn't matter. Back to In Through the Outdoor, though, that album, when it came out, I remember it coming out because I was driving to work.
Yeah.
And it was on the radio. They were playing the whole thing on KLOS. And it's like, okay, got to go buy this now.
Yeah. And back in the day, Eddie, a lot of the people listening to this may not even realize that's when you still had like album releases, and stuff was being released on even 8-tracks and cassettes back then. And I'm an old school guy. Like, I even love to still have CDs so I can listen to it in my car. I love to, like, even with a CD, like on a vinyl, picking it up and reading the artwork and checking out who played on what track and who was the guest musicians and who wrote what song. A lot of people, they get their music as immediately, like, oh, I'm not going to even buy the whole album, I'll just buy the single, or I'll just see what the latest track is.
Yeah, well, I went out and bought the album that day, obviously, but so did 3 million other people. It was number one for quite a while.
Yeah.
That was in '79, but and I was already it's like, here's more stuff for me to learn.
Yeah. Just amazing. And actually, this album, In Through Outdoor, is kind of what I'd say was the final Zeppelin album. I mean, 1980 they released like that Coda album, but that's kind of just like extra tracks that were left over.
Yeah, 82. That was for Bonham, and it's all based upon the drums. Page particularly made sure to honor Bonham by picking the tracks that had the most drums in them.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the best stuff that was left, but they didn't have much good stuff left. Honestly. Physical Graffiti took up a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, and people fail to realize this music we're talking about is about 40 years old. Even the Led Zeppelin hasn't really played much. Few shows here and there since they disbanded in 1980. But I got to ask you, as a Zepp fan, how did you feel when you first learned about the death of John Bonham, and then when it was ultimately decided the band was going to not carry on because, well, we're just not going to do that because we're only going to do it with the 4 original guys?
Yes, I don't blame them because Plant was already wanting to be out. Plant thought that he'd be like Rod Stewart. He would leave the Faces and become a megastar.
Yeah.
It never happened for him.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because, I mean, of the remaining 3, he's probably had the most successful career. But like you said, he wasn't a huge success. But
The Firm. I'm sorry. Firm was a great band. I love the Firm. Went and saw them a couple times.
Yeah, great band, but I mean, unfortunately, they only had like 2 albums, but
two albums, and only the first was really good.
Yeah.
But Plant, only his first 2 were really good. If you ask me, then it's like 1 or 2 songs off every other one after that.
Yeah.
I don't go see Plant nowadays because I don't want to see him the way he sings now. It's not. Yeah, it's just not the same. Last time I saw him was walking to Clarksdale.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's a 70-something guy these days. But, you know, and a lot during his solo career, like, he would just, fans would want him to play Zeppelin music, like, during the set, but he just would refuse. I don't know if he felt like he had to compete with his own music or what, or if he just wanted to kind of do the solo thing or what. But I think that's part of a reason people just always have a love for Zeppelin, you know.
You know, I have a picture of Robert Plant wearing the Whites T-shirt at a Honey Drippers show while he was in the Honey Drippers before he did his solo albums other than the Honey Drippers. And he told the audience that day, because friends of mine were there, he said, I don't do Zeppelin anymore. These guys do. Went to the T-shirt.
Oh, wow. That's
so
amazing.
I still have that picture of him in our T-shirt. You know, it's just pretty funny.
And the interesting thing about this being kind of a final Zeppelin album is, like I said, they started out as a band that was kind of really, you know, a blues influenced, and then as time went on, they did stuff like Whole Lot of Love and the radio hits, and got a little more successful, more bombastic. But to kind of end with an album is kind of really just pretty heavily blues influenced. It's kind of interesting because, like you said, this is a final album, but a lot of people do not really pay attention to it. Or like you said,
the one tune on here, "I'm Gonna Crawl," is one of my favorite blues tunes they ever did. I love the keyboard to start with, you know. But and the keys, it has 13th chords in it and stuff. Which, if you're not a musician, you don't know what those are. It's not. Zeppelin is not simple. That's why bands go out and play it and don't sound right. You know, if he's playing an F13, play the F13. There's a reason the extra note or two's in that chord. It gives it a texture that you don't have. And I have 3 years of music theory in high school and college. You know, I understand this stuff. But even if you don't, there's a texture to how you're hearing it that you don't hear if you simplify it.
Yeah. Definitely. Now I was kind of interesting, like, you mentioned playing in the Zeppelin tribute. Now, like, when you guys are out performing, how hard is that to come up like with a set list? I mean, do you pretty much play the same set list, or because you've got so much material to pull from, you kind of alternate?
No, the band I'm currently playing with, it's for fun. I mean, we get paid decent. That's not the deal, though. We get, it's fun, and we're playing songs none of the other Zeppelin tributes are playing. We're playing, first of all, we got a singer. He's a UPS driver during the day, but man, this guy can belt out in key how the stuff actually goes. So we're doing stuff like Night Flight. We're doing stuff like, just different songs that other people are doing. We do Heartbreaker into Live and Love and Made. We do both. Zeppelin never played Live and Love and Made. They hated that song. And, you know, and off this album, Into the Door, you know, of course we do All My Love. And we're just getting ready to learn Fool in the Rain.
Fool in the Rain, I tell you, that's one of my all-time favorites off this album. But so I'm glad to hear that now. I was curious, like, okay, so Led Zeppelin, you know, you pretty much got the original lineup to pull from. So obviously people come to see you. You're kind of doing the John Paul Jones parts. But let me ask you, like, with the Whitesnake tribute, because there's such a constantly revolving door of musicians that have been in the band. You know, throughout the years, you're not just playing all the songs by Neil Murray or Rudy Sarzo. I mean,
on purpose.
And that's got to make it easy.
We're playing our favorites.
That's got to make it that much easier for you. That you don't have to sound like one particular guy. You can kind of do your thing and just do the Whitesnake thing, and not constantly compared to, he doesn't sound like the guy that played on that song. Because since there's such a revolving door.
In my Zepp tribute, we sound like people that do it. The guitar player's been doing it forever. And the singer, he's been singing it forever. And the reason he ended up in the band is because he can physically sing it. He's in key. He's not one of these guys that goes up there and sings it flat. There's a lot of those guys. And way back in the day, the drummer from the White, Ray Melbaum, and I, we did a show with Swan. It was a one-off show. Some guitar player put together that knew the Zeppelin stuff for a birthday party somewhere. You know, so I played with Swan. Swan's a nice guy, and the bass player in Led Zeppelin, Jim Wooten's a really nice guy.
Oh yeah, he's in a ton of tributes too. And I will just say this about Swan. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it, but last time I talked to him, he was just starting this. In addition to Zeppelin now, he's got like a Robert Plant tribute where they just kind of
he's using the drummer for the Whitesnake band, Mark Kelly.
Oh wow! And you know, I know the Whitesnake band kind of morphed into the current lineup, but it was previously the Burn band when you had the guitar player Jeff Ellis, and I tell you, he a lot of what you guys were doing then was kind of based around the John Sykes era, and I tell you, man, he really looked the part. But do you guys?
Jeff's a great player too.
Yeah, but like who are you playing with now as far as a guitar player in Whitesnake?
Sean Michael Clegg, and he's probably technically just a hair better than Jeff physically.
Yeah.
And he's done it now. He's been in the band the last 3 years. It's been over 3 years. It's been the same lineup. Because of that, it's tight as hell, man. It's just so much fun.
And you know, I still think, like last time I interviewed you about, I think the time it was still Burn before it morphed into Whitesnake. But I'll tell you, I think why that project's been able to go on as long as it has, you know, into Whitesnake is, see, that's the thing when you do a tribute. I mean, you don't have a whole lot of competition. There's not a truckload of Whitesnake tributes out there, and I really don't know why. You know.
Well, I've looked them up. I know why, because when I first went to learn it, when Jeff first said, "Learn this material, give this a shot," you know, if you're interested. I went home to learn the material, and 4 hours in, I'm like, okay, this is difficult.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not as simple. It's like a Zeppelin tribute. It's the same way. Not an easy tribute to do. There's a lot of bad Zeppelin tributes out there.
Yeah.
There just are, and that's okay. As long as they're having fun and doing it how they want. A lot of singers singing it flat and not doing like it should be done. But so what? If they're having fun and people are enjoying it, why should anybody care? Yeah,
and Whitesnake, I gotta tell you, I don't know if a fan, Eddie, if you've ever had a chance to hear like the first two real Whitesnake albums. One is they were initially just released like as David Coverdale solo albums. One was Whitesnake and one was, I think, North Winds. And I think on the first one, there's a song called "Give Me Kindness" that I always love, where they Coverdale's doing a duet with like Ronnie Dio and his wife Wendy. Just if you've never checked it out, it's kind of an interesting.
Oh, I've checked it all out. I'll have to listen again. Those first two albums were, once again, that was Deep Purple without Richie Blackmore.
Yeah.
The problem was they had those two guitar players that were more blues based.
Yeah.
That's why I don't care for it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. I mean, the original version of Here We Go Again's on there. Same with, there's a couple other songs that they redid later.
Well, Crying in the Rain, and I think that's the other big one is Here I Go Again. And, you know, Here I Go Again, like you said, a lot of people may not even be aware. The original version, I think, came out in 1982 on Saints and Sinners. And
with John Lord playing organ.
And not only does it sound drastic, it almost sounds like a blues tune. I mean, on 87, they really rocked it up. But the other thing is, if you listen close enough, you can see they change some of the lyrics. I think in the original version, something like, I am a hobo or something like that.
Yeah, it's hobo instead of drifter. Yeah. I laughed because I was doing the song acoustically for somebody I know recently. And I sang the word hobo. They go, "That's not how it goes." They go, "Look at the lyric sheet.
Check out the original version.
It's still in there."
Yeah.
I did it just to be funny, but yeah, I know things change. And what they did in '87 with Sykes was really bringing it around. Plus, Sykes is a huge Zeppelin guy anyway.
Yeah.
And Still the Night sounds like Zeppelin. I'm sorry, it's one of those lead clones.
Well, I'm sure the Whitesnake fan, you remember back when that album was first released, 87, Whitesnake, like really just starting to break out here in the U.S. In a major way. Robert Plant wasn't too big of a fan, and he was calling them David cover version.
Yep, David cover version. Yep, he did. Yeah.
Well, it is what it is, but I thought that's funny because I'm like, well, the guy was obviously influenced by you. I don't know why that's such an insult.
That's why Coverdale Page didn't tour the U.S.
Yeah.
Is because Plant said, "No, you're really going to tour with that guy? Okay, I'll go ahead and do another album with you, and we'll go tour."
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
He cut it off and redid that.
Wow. So, anything else you'd like to say in closing about this album?
Yeah,
throughout
I want to go through the album just real
Sure.
In the evening, great tune. Done it forever. Love the middle part where it slows down. It's almost like a bass solo over that keyboard.
Yeah.
While he's playing a guitar thing. Love that tune. That's a driving tune. Plus, I like the violin bow intro. That brings you back to the first album.
Yeah.
It's like a return. Southbound Suarez is the one song you can throw away if I never hear it again. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I mean, it's a fun tune, and it's got that offbeat stop and everything. It's cool. Fool in the Rain, a radio classic.
Yeah.
The bands I've done it in before didn't really go over live. Let's hope this time it does, as we resurrect it this time. Hot Dog has been a fun tune. We always did it in the white back in the day. Always went over. People don't even know that song anymore.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I'd been listening to it again in preparation for this, and I kind of thought, like you said, I heard that before, but I kind of forgot about it because I haven't heard it in so long.
That solo in that song.
Yeah.
Sounds easy. Sounds like Page is screwing up on purpose and messing around with country music. It is hard as hell to do that solo correctly for every guitar player that's ever attempted it, and every band I've been in with. So don't be fooled by that. That song has some depth to it. Caris Alhambra is just a massive song.
That's an interesting one. I got to tell you, that was one of my
I would like to do that someday, although I don't like the last part. It's not me. I love the first two. It's like 3 parts. I love the first 2. All My Love, I played in cover bands. I played in Zepp tributes. We played in the white back in the day. This was it when the album came out. You were asking about how I felt when John Bonham died. Well, we had just rehearsed for a month and a half, and we're getting ready to do our first show. We had shows left over at Gazzari's.
Wow. So
we're going to go play 2 weekends at Gazzari's. John Bonham died 3 days before our first show.
Oh, wow.
Talk about packed and lines down to the whiskey.
Yeah.
People didn't get in. It was an accident. But we were playing Zeppelin, a tribute to Led Zeppelin, 3 days after John Bonham died.
And people, in regards to the song All My Love and versus kind of Stairway to Heaven, I mean, they're both kind of like ballady type songs. But I got to tell you, as popular as most people may love that song, Stairway to Heaven, I lean a little more towards All My Love.
Great song. I play it acoustically sometimes too. It works great on acoustic guitar without the keyboards.
Wow. So
Crawl's the other one too. We played back in the white back in the day. Loved. We're actually getting ready to learn that one in this Zepp tribute too. I don't like to ignore this album.
Yeah.
In my Zepp tribute, the one thing we do differently than Swan and them, and what they do is fantastic. They're all millionaires from doing it. At least Swan is.
Yeah.
Is we play all the songs off all the era and the shorter versions that are more like the radio versions. Yeah. I personally am tired of the 20-minute versions.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like I recently interviewed both Jim Wooten and Swan last year, kind of in celebration of 30 years of Led Zeppelin. What's kind of interesting is neither one of them have been in Led Zepp since the inception. They've kind of been the 2 guys been there the longest, but. That band is entirety. They've been together 30 years. Just think about that.
The White has now been together for over 41 years.
Yeah.
Still together.
And let me ask you, Eddie, in the Zepp tributes you do you guys actually dress the part, or you just get up there and do the?
No, we dress the part. It's just more fun.
I think so too, because a lot of people that I've talked to and encountered over the years, they have a misconception that guys that play in tribute bands are just failed musicians. They're just playing other people's music. But I will say this, as a guy that isn't a musician, first of all, in order to even do that, that takes a certain level of talent to be able to learn those songs and be able to master it. But then you take it to extra mile like you guys do, and you actually dress the part. I call that rock and roll theater, and that's a great thing because many people are never going to get to experience Led Zeppelin live. They just are never going to. And this is as close as they're going to get. And
now in the white, we all dress in black. We don't do it. Michael looks like Robert Plant to me. He always has. Somebody called him to begin with to see if he wanted to be in the band. But he does. His thing is, let's not dress the part anymore. Let's dress in black and go do it.
Yeah.
It works better for that band. But in the one I'm doing here, Stairway to Zeppelin, it works for me. It's just a matter of putting on some bell bottoms and a crazy shirt. I used to wear the white jacket and the white like he did in '77, but my hair's not quite the same. It's long, but he always had. John Paul Jones always had the worst haircuts, and I'm never going to cut my hair like his, and I'm not wearing a damn wig. Yeah,
you can only take it so far, but at the same time, cool thing about doing a tribute is like, even in reference to like Whitesnake, everybody's probably heard "Here I Go Again" and "Still the Night" thousands of times on the radio.
Yep.
But now, unless they're a diehard fan like you and me, a lot of people might not have heard the song from like 1981, "Come and Get It." That was a bit of a hit, but it wasn't a smash hit. But that's a pretty good a song in its own right. And if you guys get up there,
you're right. And we do "Spit It Out," and there's one other one that we do back from that era, which they're funny as hell. I mean, "Spit It Out's obviously about what you think it is.
Yeah.
It's a sex song.
Yeah.
But we laugh the whole time we're doing it. It's a funky tune, and the one they remade from back then, I can't think of the name.
Crying in the Rain.
No, the other one is real popular. It was
Here I Go.
It was on the '87 album or the '86 album too.
Oh, okay. Here I Go. Here I Go Again.
No, we did "Here I Go Again."
I know when you're talking. I know when you're talking. "Fool for Your Lovin'."
Yes, "Fool for Your Lovin'.
That's actually on the slip of the tongue, and it had obviously Adrian Vandenberg, but he was injured, so I think Steve Vai did most of the guitar parts on that.
He redid them anyway, and Sykes redid a lot of stuff when he got in to do the other album. Same thing.
Yeah, but again, the point I'm making with these songs, like "Come and Get It" and even "Spit It Out," is those are tunes, unless somebody goes, like, say, see the Whitesnake band that you're in,
right.
They might be just discovering those songs, or, oh, wow, I've heard that song, or I haven't heard it in years, or I've never heard that. Oh, that's a cool song. And then they want to...
People always tell me that they, Whitesnake, well, I don't really know what they do. I come to a show, and we do usually close to 20 songs in a set, 15 to 20, depending on how long our set is, hour and a half, 2 hours. But they know all but maybe one or two.
Yeah,
those albums are so popular and so much on the radio.
Yeah, and I got to ask you, Eddie, as a Whitesnake guy, have you had a chance to check out any of these recent box sets Coverdale's released, like the Slide It In 30th anniversary? Because I tell you, it's got great remasters and stuff, but it's got like great little hidden gems, just like demo tracks that he's never released. And
I listen to all that stuff. I pay $9.99 a month to have all of Apple's stuff. Period. Everything cool. Apple has, I pull up. I have the In Through the Outdoor Deluxe Edition, which also has rough mix of Hot Dog, rough mix of Fool in the Rain, rough mix of In the Evening, a thing called the Epic, which is Carouselambra before it was Carouselambra, the Hook, which was All My Love, the rough mixes, and Blot, which was I'm Gonna Crawl. I like to go and listen to them to see where their mind was when they were putting it together.
Yeah.
But I tend to like the finished versions better most of the time.
Oh yeah. There's a reason for that, And I just want to say in closing, Eddie, first of all, thanks for taking time to do this. Been real fun talking to you. It's been a while since we last talked, but you and I previously, when we were setting up to do this interview, because like I said, the top interview, I'm talking to people like you that have made these top 10, 20 favorite albums on their Facebook page, and you got a lot of great albums that you put on your list, and you even had kind of asked me, hey, do you mind if maybe if we talk about Mormon just one of the albums, and he said maybe I could do Mormon one interview, and I'm up for that. So before we wrap this up, I just wanted to put it out there. You don't have to tell me now, but kind of think about it, and we'll be in touch. I touch basically on Facebook later, and you can let me know, like, hey, I'd like to talk about this album next or whatever, and we can do that. I'm open for that.
We'll have to check that out, because like the band I'm playing with, Elite, is from 41 years ago. We used to play Guitarist for 2 years, and everywhere that was in between Spectrum and the White, my two Zepp tributes.
Oh, cool.
And so we're actually learning a 20-song Zepp medley right now that I put together and stuff, because we always did Zeppelin at Guitarist along with ZZ Top and a lot of Van Halen and stuff. And it's a three-piece band where I'm playing, bass and keys. And it's a lot of fun, but the albums, a lot of those albums like Sunburst finished by Bebop Deluxe, and tomorrow's going to be Who's Next, which is my favorite Who album.
Okay, definitely. So, and there's the cool thing about what we're doing here is no set deadline, so we can more than able to work around your schedule. So, and I just
I'm in independently employed where I'm salary, I can always find time.
Yeah.
So
That's cool. And I will just say this, as a fan of what you do, Eddie, I hope this COVID-19 or whatever you call it gets finished with quickly, so that all the great bands can go out there and.
It will be. I'm an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I hate them both equally.
Yeah.
You know, the far right and the far left. I can't stand either.
Only thing I will say on that level is like a lot of people, I just want to get back to work, and I love these bureaucrats, whatever you want to call it, just getting up on TV telling me, well, we're keeping you from working. We're still making nice fat bucks. So we'll tell you when you can work, but we're still making some money. So
I want all my musician friends, waitresses, and bartenders to be working too.
I mean, the final thing I'll say before you wrap up is I seen recently on the news that one of the clubs that's really in danger of going under is the Troubadour, because no bands are performing. They're losing money. They got like a GoFundMe page, and then that Anabia music.
Played there many times back in the day.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Eddie. The interview will be going up maybe next week. I'll let you know as soon as it goes up, and tell all your friends and post on your sites if you like. But until we talk again, have a great day, and I'll be in touch.
Not a problem.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Have a good